In this video, we can discuss about skeletal muscle relaxants. So let's start with the definition of skeletal muscle relaxants. These are the drugs which act peripherally at the neuromuscular junction or muscle fiber itself or centrally in the cerebrospinal axis to reduce the muscle tone and or cause paralysis. So these are the drugs which will reduce the muscle tones or it may produce paralysis. Now coming to the classification of muscle relaxants, it is mainly classified into peripherally acting and centrally acting. Peripherally acting muscle relaxant is again classified into neuromuscular blocking agents and directly acting agent. So these are the drugs which will affect on the neuromuscular junction and these are the drugs which will act directly on the muscles. So example for directly acting agents are dantrolene sodium and quinine. And this neuromuscular blocking agents is again classified into non-depolarizing competitive blockers and depolarizing blockers. Depolarizing blockers examples are succinylcholine or suxamethonium and decamethonium. And non-depolarizing or competitive blockers, these are the drugs which will compete for the neuromuscular junction and which will compete for the cholinergic nicotinic receptor NM receptor, and it is again classified into long acting, intermediate acting and short acting. Example for short acting is mivacurium. Example for intermediate acting are venguronium, atracurium, cistracurium, racuronium and rapacuronium, and long acting D-tubocurarin, panguronium, dexacurium and pipercronium. Now coming to the centrally acting drugs, it is again classified to mefenazine conquer, benzodiazepine and GABA mimetic and central alpha-2 agonist. Example for mephenin conquers are carisoprodol, chlorzoxazone, chlormazazone and methocarbamol. Example for benzodiazepines are diazepam, GABA mimetic drug like baclofen and thiocolchicides. Now alpha-2 agonist tizanidine. So this is a classification of skeletal muscle relaxants. Now what are the uses of skeletal muscle relaxants? As we mentioned before, there are two types of muscle relaxant, centrally acting as well as neuromuscular blocking agents. This neuromuscular blocking agents is primarily used in conjugation with general anesthetics, which is used for the major surgery to produce unconsciousness to provide muscle relaxation in the surgery. So that is the use of neuromuscular blocking agent in conjugation with general anesthetics to produce muscle relaxation for the surgery. Now use of centrally acting relaxant is which is mainly used for the painful muscle spasm and spasmodic neurologic conditions. So that is the use of skeletal muscle relaxant. Now coming to the mechanism of action, how skeletal muscle relaxants will act in our body. So before jumping to the muscle relaxants mechanism of action, let's have an idea about how muscle contraction occur in our body. So usually when acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter in the neuromuscular junction, when combined with the cholinergic nicotinic receptor NM receptor, it will produce a sodium channel opening. So by this sodium channel opening, there will be a sodium ion transportation. And this sodium ion transportation will lead to depolarization, and this depolarization will cause muscle contraction in the body. അപ്പോൾ അസറ്റൈൽകൊളിൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ന്യൂറോ ട്രാൻസ്മിറ്റർ കോളിനർജിക് റിസപ്റ്ററിൽ ന്യൂറോമസ്കുലാർ ജംഗ്ഷനിൽ കാണുന്ന റിസപ്റ്ററാണ് NM റിസപ്റ്റർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ആ റിസപ്റ്ററുമായിട്ട് ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് സോഡിയം ചാനൽ ഓപ്പണിംഗ് ഉണ്ടാവും. ഈ സോഡിയം ചാനൽ ഓപ്പണിംഗ് ആണ് സോഡിയം അയോൺ ട്രാൻസ്പോർട്ടേഷനും അതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ടുണ്ടാവുന്ന ഡീപോളറൈസേഷനും ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത്. അത് മസിൽ കൺട്രാക്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, നൗ ദ major site of action of both competitive as well as depolarizing blockers of skeletal muscle relaxants will act mainly on the NM receptor, neuronicotinic muscular receptor of the cholinergic receptor. Now let's see one by one. So this is the normal state when this is a sodium channel in the NM receptor. So when an agonist come in contact with the sodium channel, that is the acetylcholine, it will open the sodium channel and it will promote the sodium transportation. So there will be a muscle contraction. And there are two type of drugs. First one is non-depolarizing blockers and depolarizing blockers. These non-depolarizing blockers will bind with the same receptor as that of the agonist, and it will not allow to open the sodium channels. So there will not be any depolarization and there will not be any muscle contraction. So it will produce a muscle relaxation. And in case of depolarizing blockers, it will block the open state of sodium channels. So it will not allow to close the sodium channel. So it will produce excess of depolarization and it will produce a persistent depolarization and flaccidity as well as persistent muscle relaxation. So first one, non-depolarizing blockers or competitive blockers. This will blocker which will act on nicotinic NM receptor at the muscle end plate, and it do not have any intrinsic activity. So it will block the NM receptor binding from the acetylcholine, and it will prevent the depolarization and it will prevent the contraction, and finally it will produce the muscle relaxation. But this action of competitive blockers can be overcome by using anticholinergic esters like neostigmine. So if we are using anticholinergic esters, the effect of non-depolarizing competitive blockers can be reversed. Now coming to next group, that is the depolarizing blockers. So what will happen? The depolarizing agents like succinylcholine, when come in contact with the nicotinic receptor at the motor end plate, it will produce a membrane depolarization, and as the depolarization occur, it will block the closing of sodium channel. So it will produce a persistent depolarization and it will lead to flaccid paralysis. So this is the phase 1 blocking. So if we are using in higher dose, phase 1 block, it is by depolarizing or potentiated by anticholinesterase, and when coming into the phase 2 block, it will produce by non-depolarizing blocking, and it can be reversed by anticholinesterase drugs. So depolarizing blockers എന്താ ചെയ്യുന്നത് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, അത് സക്സിനൈൽകോളിനെക്ലിൻ ഡെക്സാമെത്തോണിയം പോലെയുള്ള ഡ്രഗ്സുകളാണ്. അതിന് NM റിസപ്റ്ററുമായിട്ട് ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിന് അഫിനിറ്റി ഉണ്ട്, ബട്ട് സബ് മാക്സിമൽ ഇൻട്രിൻസിക് ആക്ടിവിറ്റി ആണുള്ളത്. ഓക്കെ, അങ്ങനെ ഇത് ബൈൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് അത് സോഡിയം ചാനലിനെ ഡീപോളറൈസ് ചെയ്യാണ്. സോഡിയം ചാനലിനെ ഡീപോളറൈസ് ചെയ്യും, പിന്നെ അതിനെ ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്യാൻ സമ്മതിക്കുന്നില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്യാൻ സമ്മതിക്കാത്തത് കൊണ്ട് തന്നെ കൂടുതൽ സമയം ഈ പറയുന്ന ബ്ലോക്കിംഗ് ആക്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവും. അതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് ഡീപോളറൈസേഷനെ പ്രിവെന്റ് ചെയ്യും ആൻഡ് പെർസിസ്റ്റന്റ് മസിൽ റിലാക്സേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാകും. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ mechanism of action of skeletal muscle relaxants. Now there are two types of muscle relaxant, centrally acting and peripherally acting. What is the difference between centrally acting and peripherally acting? By the action of a centrally acting muscle relaxant, it will decrease the muscle tone without reducing the voluntary power. But in case of peripherally acting, it will cause muscle paralysis and voluntary movement will be lost. And centrally acting, which will selectively inhibit the postsynaptic reflexes in the CNS. But in case of peripherally acting, it will block the neurotransmission. And centrally acting will cause CNS depression. Peripherally acting will not produce any CNS depression. And it can be given orally and sometimes parenterally in case of centrally acting. And peripherally acting always practically given by IV only. And centrally acting is mainly used in the chronic spastic condition and acute muscle spasm and tetanus. And peripherally acting is used for short-term purposes, for surgical procedure in adjuvant with the general anesthetic. So that is the difference between peripherally acting and centrally acting muscle relaxants. Now, what are the actions of skeletal muscle relaxants? In skeletal muscle, by the IV infusion of non-depolarizing blocker, it will produce a muscle weakness and followed by a flaccid paralysis. In autonomic ganglia, it will competitive neuromuscular blocker and produce some degree of ganglionic blockers. So, sympathetic as well as parasympathetic impulse transmission will be blocked. And this skeletal muscle relaxant will release the histamine, which will contribute to hypotension produced by D-tubocurarine, flushing, bronchospasm, increased respiratory secretion or other effects due to the histamine release by the D-tubocurarine, which is the non-depolarizing skeletal muscle relaxant. Now, in case of cardiovascular system, D-tubocurarine will produce significant fall in BP. Heart rate may increase due to the vagal ganglionic blockers, and generally bradycardia occur initially due to the activation of vagal ganglia, followed by tachycardia and rise in BP due to the stimulation in the sympathetic ganglia. In GIT, ganglionic blockers activity of competitive blocker may enhance the post-operative paralytic illness after the abdominal operations. And in case of CNS, all the neuromuscular blockers are quaternary compound, so it do not cross the blood-brain barrier. Thus, on IV infusion, there is no central effect. So these are the actions of skeletal muscle relaxants. Now, let's see what are the drug interaction. So this is an drugs which is used along with the general anesthetics. So if we are mixing the thiopentone sodium and succinylcholine in same syringes, there will be a chemical reaction and it will inhibit the effect of another drug. So it will not produce the effect of thiopentone sodium as well as succinylcholine. So this is an example for chemical antagonism, in which one drug will antagonize the effect of another drug by chemical reaction. So it is very important because succinylcholine is a muscle relaxant which is used along with the skeletal muscle relaxants. ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ മേജർ സർജറി ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് ജനറൽ അനസ്തേഷ്യ ഇൻഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഡ്രഗാണ് തയോപെൻഡോൺ സോഡിയം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. തയോപെൻഡോൺ സോഡിയത്തിന്റെ കൂടെ മസിൽ റിലാക്സേഷന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഒരു മസിൽ റിലാക്സന്റ് ആണ് സക്സിനൈൽകോളിൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മളിത് എളുപ്പത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് രണ്ടും ഒരു സിറിഞ്ചിൽ മിക്സ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഇഞ്ചെക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ ഒരു കെമിക്കൽ അന്റഗോണിസം ഉണ്ടാവും. അതിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് അവിടെ ഒരു എഫക്റ്റും ഇല്ല. ഈ പറഞ്ഞ അനസ്തേഷ്യയും ഉണ്ടാവില്ല, മസിൽ റിലാക്സേഷനും ഉണ്ടാവാത്ത ഒരു എഫക്റ്റ് ആയിരിക്കും ഉണ്ടാവുക ഡ്യൂ ടു ദ കെമിക്കൽ റിയാക്ഷൻ. നൗ by using anticholinesterase esterase, it can block the effect of competitive blockers. നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു കോമ്പറ്റേറ്റീവ് ബ്ലോക്കർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നോൺ ഡീപോളറൈസിങ് ബ്ലോക്കേഴ്സിന്റെ ആക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് NM റിസെപ്റ്ററിൽ ആക്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അസറ്റൈൽകോളിന്റെ ആക്ഷനെ ബ്ലോക്ക് ചെയ്യുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ അസറ്റൈൽകോളിൻ എസ്റ്ററേസ് ബ്ലോക്കിംഗ് ആക്ഷൻസ് ഉള്ള ഡ്രഗ്സുകൾ, ആന്റികോളിനെസ്റ്ററേസ് ഡ്രഗ്സുകൾ കൊടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ കോമ്പറ്റേറ്റീവ് ബ്ലോക്കേഴ്സിന്റെ ആക്ഷനെ ബ്ലോക്ക് ചെയ്യും. And it do not give along with the aminoglycoside. This is another antibiotic, so it should not mix with that one. Calcium channel blockers like verapamil and other will potentiate the both competitive as well as depolarizing neuromuscular blockers. Diuretics, which may produce hypokalemia, which enhances the competitive blocking agents. So these are the drug interactions of muscle relaxants, skeletal muscle relaxants. Now coming to the uses of skeletal muscle relaxants. What are the uses? First use is it is used as an adjuvant to the anesthesia. So as I mentioned before, for the general anesthetic purpose, there will be a requirement of skeletal muscle relaxation for the surgery. So along with the general anesthetic, we will combine the skeletal muscle for this action. Now skeletal muscle in the surgery and also skeletal muscle in assistant ventilation facilitated by continuous infusion of sub-anesthetic dose of competitive muscular blockers which reduce the chest wall resistance to the inflation, and also used for the muscle relaxation in the tubation in endotracheal and laryngoscopy, and to avoid the electroconvulsions, tetanus and status epilepticus. So these are the different uses of skeletal muscle relaxation or relaxants. Now one example for skeletal muscle relaxant is tubocurarine, but this is not used nowadays because of its prominent histamine release action. So what will happen due to the histamine release? It will produce hypotension, flushing and bronchoconstriction. So that's why we are not using this tubocurarine as skeletal muscle relaxants now. Now, most commonly used muscle relaxant is succinylcholine, which is mainly used for passing tracheal tube, and it must be avoided using in young children unless absolute necessary, because there is a risk of hyperkalemia and cardiac arrhythmia, and there is a risk of regurgitation and aspiration of gastric content, which is increased by succinylcholine in GERD patient, gastrointestinal reflux disease patient, as well as patient who are obese. So these are the uses of succinylcholine. Now pancuronium, this is a synthetic skeletal muscle relaxant which is 5 times more potent and longer acting than the D-tubocurarine, and it have a good cardiac stability without producing any arrhythmia, but seldom it will induce flushing, bronchospasm, cardiac arrhythmia because of lower histamine release potential. Now another type of muscle relaxant is directly acting muscle relaxants. Example is dantrolene. Mechanism of action: this dantrolene will act on RYR1 receptor, that is a ryanodine receptor, calcium, which is a calcium channel present in the sarcoplasmic reticulum of the skeletal muscle. Thereby it will prevent the calcium induced calcium release through this channel, and excitation and contraction coupling process of the skeletal muscle will be interfered. Thereby it will produce the muscle relaxant by directly acting on the muscles, and this is mainly used to reduce the spasticity in upper motor neuron disorder, hemiplegia, paraplegia, cerebral palsy and multiple sclerosis. These are the uses of directly acting muscle relaxant dantrolene. Now what are the ADR of dantrolene? Sedation, light headache, other central effects may occur but less pronounced than with the centrally acting muscle relaxants, and troublesome diarrhea in some patients, and long-term use may cause dose-dependent liver toxicity. So these are the adverse drug reactions of dantrolene. So that is all about the skeletal muscle relaxants, which is mainly used to reduce the tone of the skeletal muscle, which is mainly used as an adjuvant along with the general anesthetics for the surgery, as well as neurological spasticity also by using centrally acting skeletal muscle relaxants. So hope it is clear. Thank you for watching this video.